Romans 8:28 states, "And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them." Hi, I'm Jordan Lee, a graduate student at Liberty University, and this is my group leading report for HSCO-511 Group Dynamics. My group is called GriefShare, a support for people grieving the death of a loved one. My group leadership experience took place on February 15th, 2023 at the Asbury Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma from 6 to 7:30 p.m. This group was open and participation was voluntary. We worked with individual tables, so I led one table and my co-leader led the other. My table had 6 members with the demographics including 4 women and 2 men ages from early 40s to late 60s, all Caucasian with similar lifestyles. I have no relationship with any of the members and I served as a facilitator for the group. The thing that members had in common was the loss of a loved one, which I did share with the group, and the loss of my mother 2 years ago. The meeting began on time and progressed smoothly through the agenda that was set by the GriefShare programming. The meeting was opened with warm introductions, followed by the topic, Grief and Your Relationships, with the goals for this topic. All participants have a workbook that includes the relevant information for each group session. Therefore, it was easy for the participants to follow along. I think that this approach is important, that it is difficult for the participant to listen to the group's conversation if they are trying to write at the same time. Having a workbook with relevant information already there made it more relaxed and less stressful for them. A brief review of group norms was included, emphasis on a safe environment, confidentiality of discussions, and importance of staying on topic. I used a warm-up activity called the blob tree. Each participant used a colored pencil to place themselves where they believe they fall emotionally on the tree. We briefly discussed in the wrap-up segment, we would look at their blob tree location to see if their emotional outlook had changed. As part of the GriefShare agenda, my group watched a video relating to your grief and relationships, followed by discussion questions. Foresight discusses the equality norm in which all group members, regardless of their input, should receive an equal share of the benefit. I approached our discussion from an equality norm. I reflected on participants' answers to show empathy. The wrap-up session involved a second look at the blob tree by the participants. They used their same colored pencil to show their placement on the tree. After each had finished this exercise, we talked for a couple of minutes about if or how the session had helped them in handling their grief and their relationships with friends and family members. My leading of this support group went well. On a scale from 1 to 10, I would give myself a 7.5. Not bad, but I need room to improve. I was able to set a positive, relaxed tone for the group. My demeanor was non-threatening and supportive for those who were reluctant to speak up. The participants appeared to appreciate the structure of the meeting and were not overwhelmed. I used eye-to-eye contact, a warm smile, and a nonverbal communication by nodding my head in agreement with their comments. We talked about developing coping skills. I told my group that our grief is always there, but with God's help, we can come to understand our grief can be managed. My challenge was balancing time constraints between the time allotted for the meeting and being respectful of the participants' time for answering questions. Questions used for this group were open-ended to avoid leading or one-word answer questions. The silence between comments was difficult for me, but I need to remain patient so I do not cut anyone off who wants to comment. From a cultural standpoint, these 6 people were Christians whose backgrounds reflected shared beliefs, norms, and practices. As a group, these participants were willing to talk about the past, even though it could be awkward sometimes. We did not believe that they had lost friends and family because of their loss, and were forgiving of people who said the wrong thing but meant well. 3 of the 6 participants in my group indicated on the blob tree that their emotional state improved. They felt better about themselves and their situation. I was pleased to get that much positive change from my group. I learned that being very organized as a group leader is critical and reduces one's stress level. Fear of speaking before a group can be traumatic, but doesn't have to be. Practice and group leading will enhance my skills. My concluding thought comes from Maya Angelou, who said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Effective support group leadership is about how I made the participants feel. Through the scriptures and prayer, the Holy Spirit will guide me in achieving this. Thank you for listening.